It looks like we're live. I don't know if it's showing up on Facebook, but we are here. So
can any of you hear the sound of banging outside my window? Okay, that's just for 2 minutes. It's the 7 o'clock salute. Sorry.
Celebration. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to Grateful, Ready, Open, Willing, and our celebration of Pride. I'm so glad you're here, and I am beyond grateful to be joined by these wonderful artists and human beings together tonight. I will introduce you here to, shall I try to do it alphabetical if I can figure that out? Alan Ariano, Jordan Barbour, Erica Bradshaw, and POOYA MOHSENI. And each of these artists has done very amazing things in their lives. I think everyone's been on Law and Order at some point. But besides that, oh no, we're working on it. Okay, so we got something to reach for, Jordan. Yes, Jordan was most recently in The Inheritance, but I guess we know each other. I know you as a director and creative artist and all around person. Of the theater who does many wonderful things. Erica Bradshaw is just, I'm just going around the way the visual shows up to me. Erica Bradshaw is an angel in my life who I first met at Actors Theater of Louisville maybe half a lifetime ago. Yeah, we don't go there. We're not going there. But just is just a force. She is, for me, the definition of what Maya Angelou meant when she said phenomenal women.
Thank you.
That's who I think of. Alan Ariano is an original cast member of the original Miss Saigon, dare I say? Is that correct?
The original, yes.
Moved into what tonight we won't call straight theater, but is ordinarily called straight theater, and television, and also has done a bit of directing and writing, as I have seen various things crop up, and just a lot of wonderful stuff. And POOYA MOHSENI is I Italianized your name again. I didn't mean to do that. POOYA MOHSENI is a transgender advocate, as well as an actress who has written and directed and created several of her own pieces as an Iranian-American actress, writer, director, and artist. So those are very brief summaries, and I'm sure each of you could introduce yourself better. A few technical things before we start. So tonight we're using the StreamYard platform to Facebook Live. So for everyone participating, what that means is when you make a comment, it will come up as Facebook user, unless you're on StreamYard. Uh-oh, what just happened?
I think we lost
Erica. I lost Erica. I hope she'll pop back in there. So if you are making a comment and you want us to know who you are, please type your name in at the front of the comment each time you comment. If you are connected to StreamYard, as I see that Brett Shuford and Damon Bishop are, your names are coming up because you are connected to the StreamYard platform. But otherwise, it just says Dathan Williams. It just says Facebook user. So just know that. I usually have the wonderful Lindsay Bristol with me, who solves all my technical crises and life crises and work crises, and is just guiding force for me in this project. Lindsay is not able to be with us tonight, so I am on my own, so wish me luck. And tonight what we're going to do is we're going to talk about Pride. It's a very unique year and a very unique Pride celebration. Of course, it's a very unique year for all of us in so many ways. There's such a great shift happening in the world, and we've been charting that and talking about that at Grateful, Ready, Open, Willing for some time now. So this year there is a virtual Pride March, which is produced, I think, by Heritage of Pride, who always does the Pride March in New York City. So that will happen virtually, online, hosted by Dan Levy from Schitt's Creek, which is wonderful. And what a blessing that there are young people in Ohio and Wisconsin and Texas who can participate in the Pride March. And she's back. Hello, darling.
I don't know. I apologize. Sorry.
Oh, good. No worries. No worries. So there's a way for so many more people to be reached with the New York Pride March this year by going virtual. In addition, Pride Pride has taken on Black Lives Matter, they're so intertwined. There's very little difference in those two causes. Let's all remember that the Battle of Stonewall was fought mostly by people of color. I guess now we would say BIPOC people, transgender people. Those were the people who threw the first shoe. Those were the people who stood up for our rights first. That's where the gay rights movement all began. And as gay people, we owe a great deal, and I'll say I'll speak for myself, I owe a great deal to the people of color who fought that battle and who made the journey of my life something that has just been one of increasing acceptance and increasing equal rights. We aren't done yet, but it's a wonderful thing to be able to give back and to be able to take this year's Pride March and offer it up to the Black Lives Matter movement and the BIPOC people who are also in search of rights in a new way right now. So I'm interested in talking a little bit about how those things intersect. And then we'll get a little bit into a discussion about theater and gay theater, and if there's a place for gay theater or if that's a thing anymore even. I guess we would say LGBTQ plus theater. So the first thing I'd like to do by way of introduction is if we could just go around and whoever would like to speak first, and I would ask the four of you, gratitude, readiness, openness, willingness. In terms of pride, the pride movement, this celebration of pride, which one you feeling tonight?
I'll go.
Yes.
You know, this is when everybody's so polite. I take gratitude every day. You know, I don't know how much you know about my past, but this is what I tell my kids. And by kids, I mean the younger members of the queer community, not just in the United States, but I was born and raised in Iran. I immigrated to the US when I was 19. So I kind of feel that, you know, my heart and my experiences kind of like are cross-Atlantic. And when I tell those young people, I say, you know, if 20-something years ago, when nobody uttered the word trans, when there was no internet that you couldn't search anything and find a community, and probably the best representation of the trans community was the people that would be paraded in on Jerry Springer, if at that time I could find a way to push my way forward and find my way, you know, with my mom to New York and kind of like be here to, you know, be here tonight. Because we also shouldn't forget that tonight is the anniversary of marriage equality, and everything that this administration has done ever since, it does not take away that that was a monumental day. But I talk about gratitude because I know how dark life can really be. I know how isolated it can be for a young queer person, especially in a society that does not see them, acknowledge them, or affirm them. And to then be here that not only do I get to be fully out as myself, the queen of my own universe, and get to tell stories to other people, move them, maybe make them feel that they're not alone, I am filled with gratitude because in the 20-something years my life has moved beyond my wildest imagination at that time. And one of the other things you mentioned that this year is very unique, I would also like to present this to the audience, that I've come to think that every year is unique. It's just unique in its own special way, in the hurdles that it throws your way. So this year, you know, where do we start? From the impeachment to Corona to you know, the George Floyd murder and everything that has happened since. Yes, without a doubt, we're probably not going to forget 2020 for a very long time. But I also feel that maybe this has given us a lot of opportunity to ask ourselves questions regarding where are we in this fight? Who are we? What are we made of? And what is it that we want to add to this world? So instead of looking at it as life being paused, maybe it's the fact that life has just shifted gears and we can either kind of like roll with it and look in places that life is guiding us to, or push against it. And again, I come back to gratitude, that somehow with everything that I've seen and the wonderful people that have come into my path and have shown me different ways of being, I show gratitude for being alive, for looking forward, and for being true to myself and liking myself. And that gratitude goes to everyone that's come in my path up to this point of my life.
Thank you for sharing that, POOYA. That's beautiful.
I think I have to jump on board, and I'm not trying to just be a copycat, POOYA, but it is gratitude 18 years ago that when we met Arnold at Louisville, where you were the first person to introduce me to the idea of a gratitude journal. And you started it with the students. I started it. I have never stopped. I have given it to all of my students. It is part of my life practice to write every day what I'm grateful for. Sometimes it's one thing, like I woke up. Like I woke up and that's it. Because sometimes it's rough out there. And so gratitude is that hearing that today is the anniversary of marriage equality, and knowing that in the state of New Jersey, my ex-wife and I were plaintiffs against the state for civil unions, which was all we could get at the time. And we actually won against the state of New Jersey for marriage equality, taking it from civil unions. So to hear that today is, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the up and the down, because yes, we were in a fight together as plaintiffs, but now, it's also that we're divorced, which happens too. You don't get, I think you get progress like this. Progress doesn't go straight up in one direction. It takes a lot. And I think that sometimes, to be honest, I have a hard time merging the LGBT movement with the Black Lives Matter movement, because the brutality for 401 years. And I'm not saying that we as gay people as well have not experienced that, but on such a mass destructive level, it's so thick. So I get torn saying they have equal weight as a gay Black woman. And sometimes I like to change it. Am I queer? Because my students say, yeah, you're queer. You just say queer. So I'm like, I'm queer. And I like that. You know what I mean? But I get torn between saying it's the same kind of fight, because it doesn't feel like it's the same kind of fight, because I'm in both skins and it's very different. It's also that the white male patriarchy got us very far with the idea that was started by people of color for the LGBT QIA. I learned that much of it. So I'm still in a work in progress with that, and I just, I'm hoping that staying open is that's a part of gratitude, but also that I just, especially in these challenging times, I've pulled into my home. And it's been hard out there, harder than it's been in my little world. In my little world, my little family, my wife and my son and I and my little friends, we've been in more communication. We've been able to have dinners together, even if they were virtual. I feel more connected to my community, as my Black community and my gay community, than I've been in years. And my mom says this thing, and then I'm going to end. She says, you didn't get Obama without 8 years of Bush. Imagine what's coming next, girl. So, yeah, imagine.
That's beautiful. Thank you. And Erica, I'm going to come back to you and ask you to talk a little more about how you feel like the Pride and the Black Lives Matter are not the same thing, because that's actually a really interesting thread to follow. I'd like to hear from the gentleman, if that's an okay word to use. We're all changing. But a technical thing I forgot to mention at the beginning. I'm asking you all as guests, please mute yourself when you're not talking, because then the person who is talking will be heard much more clearly. Something I learned at the last StreamYard that I was just reminded of. Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to have to piggyback on the whole gratitude thing as well. I'm a person of color. I'm an immigrant, and I'm gay. And what I am so grateful for in being those three things are for the people who've come before me, as far as those things and how they intersect. People who have fought for our rights as gay individuals, and the people who defend immigrants and people of color and acceptance and this country. That's what America stands for, is that freedom to be able to come in and join the melting pot, despite what this president, this administration is trying to do. So I'm grateful for being able to overcome those adversities that comes before us, and I'm so grateful for my circle of friends and my family, and most of all, especially the theater community, who accepts me for who I am, not just because I'm a gay man, but also an immigrant, and being able to allow that freely. Because before I became an actor, I guess you can say I was closeted. I didn't accept my sexuality until my mid-20s, and therefore I was just quiet. I wouldn't tell people, and I was kind of just because it wasn't so accepted. But when I decided to become an actor, that's when I knew community meant something for me, and you would find that in the theater community. Actors accept you for who you are and praise you for who you are. So I'm so grateful for that. Pride to me is, what the original fight was for is equality. That's all we want. That's all we search for, and that's all we thrive for, is to have what everyone else has, to not be looked down upon or frowned upon for choosing who we love and why we love. So I'm hoping that with what's gone in the past 3 months, and mostly the Black Lives Movement, is that pride will evolve into something that we can embrace the Black community or any other minority that's been marginalized, and that we can all stand together, as opposed to it just being called gay pride, or that's being just associated. So that would be a wonderful goal, I think, that we can all strive for. And I'm thankful and grateful just to be able to celebrate it every year with friends and family. So.
Thanks so much, Alan. Jordan, you have to unmute.
Sorry. I'm not technically savvy at all. I apologize. But I would say that I hate to be the outlier of the group, but I'm going to go a little bit differently and say that the guiding principles for me are probably more akin to like openness and willingness. Probably openness is what I would say that I identify most strongly with. And I just think as an actor, sort of my job is to be open to all people and to be open to understanding the world that's around me and not passing judgment on it, and just being open to any sort of experience or different point of view from my own. And the reason why I say willingness is tied into it is because there has to be a willingness to go with that. And I think what has made me the person that I am. I like to identify as queer. We were talking a little bit ago about the difference between sort of like gay and queer and blah, 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 all that stuff. I don't know any sort of specific definitions that differentiate them. I choose to identify as queer only because I think queer is more of an all-encompassing mentality. I think it's actually more about bucking any restrictions or trends that the hegemonic institution is trying to place upon you. So I say that I'm a queer person because queer means that I believe I don't accept any sort of gender norms. I don't accept any sort of racial norms. I don't accept any sort of standard that's placed upon us by something that is not of this earth. Like these mentalities and ideas that come from human history that are based on bias and prejudice that become normalized. As a queer person, I'm just against the idea of any sort of thinking mentality that attaches itself to the system as a whole, that denies the rights or privileges or beliefs of any group. So the reason why I sort of identify with queer is because of the openness of identifying as a queer person, the willingness to step into the skin of someone else and try and understand and see the world from their point of view. And as an actor, I have to play murderers sometimes. I have to play villains sometimes. I can't judge those characters. I can't sit there and say, well, I'm a bad guy. But no, I have to sit inside that humanity. And even if it upsets me or disturbs me, I have to accept that is how this other person thinks about the world and goes through the world. And so I think that that's our greatest gift as queer people, is that we can understand the feeling of being subjugated. We can understand the feeling of being misunderstood. But what we've been able to survive, and I guess this is sort of linking itself to gratitude, what we've been able to survive is the strength that's gotten us through this. What we've been able to latch onto is the power that has come before us, the power of those people who were throwing the first shoe to say, this is who I am. You're saying I'm not allowed to be this, but I'm going to be who I am. And yeah, I think that's sort of my general way of thinking about just being a queer person, being a gay person, and how I'm approaching Pride this year, especially with the sort of melding of the Black Lives Matter movement into what Pride is this year.
Beautiful, thank you. That's a good segue to head back to where Erica left off with the how they're not similar. I don't know if you can see the screen if I put up a comment from Dathan Williams. Can you see that?
Yeah, I was looking at that comment and thinking, I wonder if that's a good place to go back when you said it.
Yeah, so why don't we look at my technological skill? Ooh.
All right.
Why don't we throw that out and just you know, out to the group and just say, okay, so let's talk a little bit more about that, because that, you know, as a gay person, you know, I look at, it was last week we got a ruling on no employment discrimination because you're gay. So until a few days ago, it was perfectly legal to discriminate against us in the workplace. So this struggle, which I'm very conscious of in my life over many decades, being born into a world where it wasn't spoken. Gay people were treated for psychological illness. It was considered a psychological illness. The treatment was to not have not have that supported. The treatment was to basically beat it out of you with Clockwork Orange, electroshock therapy, or whatever was available. And to have come from what was called the love that dare not speak its name to where I am a happily married man. You wouldn't know it from my Facebook posts about Justin Trudeau and my obsession, but I really am happy. And I just, you know, I've seen that arc of struggle. I also have BIPOC people in my life to whom I'm incredibly close, and I understand what I'm able to as an outsider about that struggle long before this year, and have participated and supported where possible, where I can. But I'm curious, especially for those of you, well, I guess, you know, James Call was going to join us tonight, but he was going to be somewhere remote. And he said, if I can get an internet connection, I'm there. So he's not here. But basically, all of you are people of color. So I would love to hear your thoughts.
You said something that was the ticket. The thing is, at some point, you can be healed as a white male of your ill, or we can look at you as sick. When you are Black, when you are of color, there's no healing. You know what I mean? So it could be understood like, well, he's gay and that's bad and we don't believe in that. It's against God, but we're going to pray for him, as opposed to they're animals. They're not even human. There's such a difference there. It's from calling, it's like you're sick, but you're still a human. We haven't been treated as human. And I think for me, I'm learning about that more and more. I'd love to share, I had an experience recently where I was negotiating a contract with an employer, and you hear my voice. I've had this voice since I was like 13, which is a problem in the acting world. But, and I did everything I was supposed to, but her comments were, people, what did she say? She said, people think that you think you're better than other people, and maybe you need to just learn to be a little more humble. You know, push other people up by, you know, just pull back a little. And I'm one of those people. I was born into a family where, you know, my grandmother had the equivalent of a PhD for a Black woman at a time that was unheard of. And I was the firstborn grandchild. So when I was born, I was like the golden child. And then the world saw me and said, what, woman, bam, whoa, and gay, boom, and Black, oh God. You know what? So to be told to be humble and to pull back, is not something that I think many men experience in general. And I think even fewer, any men in general, or white men in general experience. So, I lost my train. I'm not even gonna front with y'all and try to pretend to get it back. My train, I'm about to be 46. It just jumped tracks.
I don't know if you can see the comment, but you were talking about your voice, and Michelle says, "I love your voice."
Oh, thank you, Michelle. I'm married. Sorry. No, I'm just teasing. But I think that. Keep going. Jordan, go.
I was going to say, just, so the thing that I was linking to when you were speaking before, Arnold, was you said a very important thing, which is you said something that there's only so much that you will do your best to understand the movement, or you will do your best to understand the point of view of Black people and people of color, but there is only so much that you can understand. And I think that that is a very important distinction that people don't understand, is that like, what's happening with, for me at least, I won't speak for all Black people, but what I think is happening right now is that people are starting to realize that you actually can't equivocate the Black experience. Like you can't understand it in a way that will make sense to you because it's a lived experience. That's true for so many groups, and I fully understand that. What's happening right now is that we've had 400 years of erasure, that people are finally saying, no, you don't understand what it's like. And the clearest way of understanding that and seeing the injustice of what we have to deal with every day is the fact that white cops are killing Black people. And that's what we're able to sort of like latch onto in a way that like most people can understand. But I think especially the conversation that's happening within theater circles right now is that there is becoming an awareness that like, this experience that is being Black is not something that we can quantify or qualify. And maybe we should just refer to these Black people and listen to them. Instead of trying to like get it or like make sense of it or have it be presented in a way that's palatable to us, why don't we just take their words for it? I was thinking this last night where I was making a joke with myself, but to a certain extent, I think it's serious. I kind of think you were talking about PhDs and like, to a certain extent, I think like all Black people should have PhDs in like race relations in this country because like it's a lived experience for us. It's something that we are experts in. We understand racism. We understand prejudice because it's something that we have lived with every second, every minute of every day that we've been alive. And so I was just dealing with this last night where someone was sort of like questioning my experience of race, and someone had said something that I thought was insensitive or racist, and that individual was trying to tell me, no, but it wasn't racist because of this and because of this. And what I'm saying is, I understand that your intention was not racist. I understand that you don't understand why I'm getting so offended, or not offended, but like affected by what you're saying. But I need you to trust me when I'm telling you that what you're saying is racist. I need you to not question it. We can certainly discuss it. We can certainly have a conversation where we get underneath it and try to understand it. But I'm telling you that that visceral reaction that I have is the same thing that I experienced when I was 5 years old. That was a racist incident. That was a clearly racist, where someone told me that my lips were too big, or that I had too big a butt, or that my skin was what it looks like when you're out in the sun for too long. Like this sort of thing that's happening right now is, I think, like an understanding that we need to stop trying to equivocate or understand these experiences in the same way that I, as a cis Black man, can never understand the experience of being a trans person in this country. And it's not my responsibility. It's not that it's not my responsibility to understand it. I can never understand it. But what I can do is the same thing we were just talking about a second ago. I can be open and willing to understand it. I can keep myself available to understanding your point of view, hearing it, respecting it, not judging it or denying it, and giving it its space. And then saying, here are my limitations in understanding your point of view. Here's what I would like to contribute. But I don't have to speak with a level of authority the way a lot of white men do in this country. And a lot of those men are theater makers. They're the heads of these theater companies. And when you have people calling out an injustice and saying, this is how we're feeling treated, a lot of those white men will say, well, I don't understand that, or I don't see it as that way, therefore it's not a thing. And I think what we're having right now is a realization that, like, this thing that a lot of Black artists, this thing that a lot of artists of color have been saying for many, many years, even though we maybe don't understand it or we don't have a way to qualify it, maybe we should just shut the hell up and listen and just give them the floor for a minute and let them talk.
It's been hard to be in a room of theater makers who are working on a Black play, an August Wilson play, and because my role may be as an associate, I'm not referred to. Are you kidding me? What do you know about this outside of what you've studied? And I have a soul connection, because in the womb of every woman who gives birth to a brown or Black child is the thought, are they gonna be okay? Are they gonna be killed by the cops? And from my white female friends, that's not the first concern in their mind when they're giving birth. When my son, now 9 years old, he's at the doctor, they said he's gonna be between 6'4" and 6'6". That does not make me happy. Yes, he'll be a charming, stunning guy, but it means that I will reach into every resource of white ally I have to keep this boy safe. And that's, I think that it's, I'm with you. I'm with you about, it's not something you can learn no matter how much you study. Even no matter how great of an actor you are. This you can't do. You know what I mean? As far as trying to, because you haven't even taken the chance to assimilate. And when I say you, I don't mean you specific, I mean you, the mass. I think that the white male majority has not taken the time, nor has had to assimilate or learn me. I just had this speech where I said, we have notes and flavors of language that you miss. We have a whole world of communication as people of color and as Black people that the world has missed out on so much, but the little bits you get are totally co-opted. So,
and then it's labeled as another language. It's called Ebonics. It's tried to understand in a way that can qualify it, because for so much, especially of Western culture, I'm sorry to cut you off, Erica, but like,
no, you're not.
like Western culture, again, like what I was saying, there has to be this equivocation, there has to be this qualification of different experiences. So if Black people are talking that way, it must just be a different language. So I guess we should call it Ebonics, because we don't understand it.
I'm curious. This is great. Thank you both so much. I'm curious, POOYA, is any of this resonating for you as a trans person?
Well, I mean, I was listening and it's like, oh my God, listening to Jordan and Erica. This is one of the things that I've been very aware. I come from a background that has its own racial issues. It's not white versus Black, it's Persian versus Arab or Afghan. So this idea of, you know, one race wanting to feel superior to another one is something I grew up with, but also Iran has somehow been on the receiving end of imperialism for the past like 300 years or so. So much so that certain things about white supremacy has seeped so deep into our culture, so much so that, you know, even my own grandmother, when I was very young, I'm like a shade or so darker than my brother, not by much, but it's so subtle in our culture that my grandmother affectionately used to call me something that, you know, the closest equivalent in English would be darky, because I was a little darker. And that idea of like light and dark, like light skin is prettier, is considered more attractive in Iran. Light eyes are considered more attractive. My mom always has this example of like, you know, if you put two babies side by side, when we want to advertise baby products in Iran, it's usually a picture of a fair child with light eyes, even though their percentage in our general population is probably less than 10%. But that white supremacy has seeped so far into us, and you can see it in many ways that manifest, whether it happens to be so many plastic surgeries that are done so people in Iran can look more Western, whether it's their nose, their lips, color contacts, hair dyes. So it's just so part of our culture. I've been here for 20 something years. You know, I come from a middle class background, and even though I was an immigrant, I got to be in situations, in group homes, in counseling sessions with people of color, with Black queer people, with Latinx queer people, and I got to hear their stories. So when a few weeks ago I posted something on my Instagram talking about the fact that, you know, it's like, I love America despite all the horrible things that people do in its name. And somebody made a comment to the fact that, well, why is it that you don't say that when something horrible happens to someone in Iran? And the first thing that came to my mind is, when I say something happening to a person of color in this country, that's not undermining what's happening to another person of color in another country. But as Erica was saying, we also have to realize that there are huge differences. While I may come from a country that has been the subject of imperialism for hundreds of years, my ancestors were not enslaved. They were not. Within my own country, I was not treated as a second tier citizen just because of the color of my skin. Yes, as a trans person and as an immigrant, I may have seen a lot of prejudices that have come my way while I've been here. But like Jordan was saying, I'm open enough to realize that when I walk on the street, people don't treat me differently because I have dark hair, because somehow in their mindset, this has not been pushed into the mindset that, oh, if you see a person of this particular skin color, this is probably what they're going to do to you, or this is what they're capable of. That presumption is not attached to me and my identity. Yes, if I walk into a room and people find out that I'm trans, yes, that part of my identity may overshadow everything else. But it does not have the same baggage that it would have if I walked into a room and I was a Black trans woman. And I'm aware of that. And like Jordan said, I do not understand every part of it. I mean, how can I? As many Black friends as I may have, that is not my personal experience. I have heard about it, I have seen it, but I have not experienced it from inside out. And I've had to work against my own prejudices that I was brought up with. But when we were talking about the pride, and whether it's gay pride or Black pride, one of the things as an activist I always talk about is, one thing we can all agree on, all the people that are fighting for personhood and equal rights, we are fighting for the same thing, but that same thing is achieved differently depending on who we are and where we come from. So yes, while men, queer people are fighting for their rights, that is a different experience, and they are fighting it in a different way. If women are fighting for equal rights, they are fighting for it in a different way. If Black people are fighting for something, yes, we're all fighting for personhood, but the hurdles we have in our ways are different. It's different for women, it's different for queer people, it's different for immigrants. But one of the things I like to say, I always talk about inclusivity, is that while I may not know exactly what it means to be a Black person, as somebody had written in the comments, while I don't have that personal experience, I would like to think if I am needed, I would stand by a Black person if they need me to fight with them, or at the very least, be a help to them and their movement, instead of saying, well, I don't understand it, so it can't be. Which is what a lot of people say about my experience as a trans person. Well, I don't understand you, so it can't be true. And having learned from that experience, I realized that just because I don't understand something personally, it does not take away from its validity. It just means that I need to educate myself more.
You know what? I love that you said and took ownership. You said, and my own biases that I was raised with that you had to look at. And I love that you said that, because we have that within the Black community, we have the colorism as well. And I also have to own where that's affected my life. A slight tangent. I just started thinking this question. I think a big part of why everything is coming to a head is because the numbers are going to change soon in this country for the first time ever. And the power shifts with the numbers. And I try to think, if I was a white male who has been privileged through this system that was stolen from me, am I going to give it up? And I'm not going to try to sit here and pretend that I'm a saint. I am not an angel, so I love you, but I'm not an angel. I'm not a saint. And if the world was set up for me and my family and my kids and my whole existence, and I asked my students, they had to do an essay about it. Am I gonna give it up so we can share? Let's be real. We're human. We are human animals. I would love to think that as a person who's been Black, obviously forever, all their lives, I have a lens on it. Like, of course, I would want everybody to feel included. But where would I? If everybody's included, especially with the mentality that we have in this world, we don't believe that everybody can eat and eat well. We don't believe that everybody can have and have well. We believe that if white males retain power, then the oppression continues. But what if we strove for equity and not equality? You know what I mean? What if it was more? Anyway, what would you do? I guess I love asking the question. If you were a white male, and I say cisgender white male patriarchy, would you give up what has made your family, your land, your money, your access, your privilege? Yes, it was stolen. It was all done wrong. I get it. I think we're being naive when we don't look at that side of this equation. And sadly, in history, humans war for this. They don't gently come to the next version of, okay, here we go. Just historically, we fight for it at some point. And I think that there's been a shift in me, and I notice in Black people, where it's like, you know what, we got to start fighting. We got to fight, because nobody's going to give this. Why would you give your power away? Why would you give your privilege away? Why would you take a chance and do that? What, because the world will be better for who? The world's already great for the white male patriarchy. It's pretty great. So what would you do?
I think she's asking you, Pooya.
Oh, me?
It was to the whole panel. It was.
It's like I'm like, okay. No, you know, what you say is my mom says something which is very much in the vein of what you say. Rights are not given, rights are taken. So whether it's somebody taking somebody else's rights or somebody claiming their own rights, and I feel you're very much in the right. If you know the world as it is, and in that world you happen to have more rights than other people, as we've seen within this century, that when other people want to they don't want to take your rights away, but they want to have rights as you see that as your right being taken away, even though in parentheses what it really is that your right of being supreme to other people is being taken away, but it is still being seen as, I am going to have less of what I had. And as you say, whether it was right or wrong, it's kind of like, you know, it was good. It was good that I have more rights than other people. And now if I have to give it up, nobody would give that up without a fight. And like you said, that's just being human.
Just want to chime in to give us a little time check. So we've got about 15 minutes left. I would like to talk a little bit about, I know it goes fast when we're on it, right? I would like to talk a little bit about theater, and if there is such a thing as gay theater anymore, and if it's necessary. Before we get to that, though, just to continue on this for one more moment, Alan, is there anything you would like to chime in with from your perspective and life experience at all? Don't feel pressure. I'm just offering.
Nothing that I can think of. What does come to mind is, Erica, when you said, would we want, if you were a white man, would you want to give up that power and that privilege? I had to think about that because me being an immigrant and a gay man in this business, I'm not asking for anybody to give up their right or their power. I'm asking that we are allowed that ability to have that right and that power. So that's the only thing I'd questioned about your statement, or about your question is are we asking them to give it up? Or is that how they see it? Or is that how we think they see it?
I think that's how I believe that it is seen. Like, what more do you guys want? We gave you equal rights. We gave you civil rights. We gave you this. What do you want? Maybe I want the Constitution to be changed and not be living by a document that was, one, co-opted from indigenous people, and then two, rewritten to cater to 13 white slave-owning, men who didn't even consider bringing a woman in the room except to get a glass of water. Maybe that's what I want. I've allowed myself to be angry, and if that's a stereotype and if it's whatever, I'm at the point in my life where I have assimilated, I have learned, I have been a good Black. And the world has rewarded me in many ways. I'm blessed, but I'm still Black and dealing with everything that the oppression comes from.
I completely understand it. I completely understand it. I can't feel your pain. And when the Black Lives Movements first started about 5-6 years ago, I thought I understood, to be honest, and I thought I was an ally. It didn't take until this past few months to realize that I didn't understand, and that I probably won't fully understand, especially hearing how you and Jordan so eloquently spoke just now. And it's true. No one can ever live what you have lived and experienced, nor can anybody know what I experienced as being an Asian American in this business and in this country. So yeah, I feel your pain. It was just a thought I came up with as you were saying.
And honestly, I'm not going to speak for all Black people, but I don't have pain. We're not sitting over here in pain, shaking like, oh Lord, they've been so bad to us. This ain't new. This whole thing that's going on. I saw a meme, and it was like these two. It wasn't a meme. It was a cartoonist. She's a Black cartoonist for the New Yorker, and it was her cartoon. It was two Black women, and there was the phone kept beeping. The cell phone kept beeping, and she said, "Girl, it's just my white friends checking on me because they thinking this racism shit is new." It's like we're seeing things come to a head. The biggest difference I'm seeing is that more and more Black people are saying, we're going to have to fight. We're going to have to fight. We have to start training ourselves, our people, and our children in a different way. Because this marching and shit is never worked fully. And I say it didn't work. And I say it like this because Emmett Till, George Floyd. The same shit is happening. Public hangings, and we watched a man 846. Ain't nothing changed except technology. So if it's coming down to a fight, I think we as Black people are starting to see that. There's no kumbaya for this one.
I would also add that I think that, and I know we want to move on to theater, but I think one of the things that's happening right now, is that we're realizing that Black people are not one block that all think the same thing and believe the same thing either. And I think one of the things that's happening in the conversation right now is that, like, because actually, I mean, I think we actually disagreed a second ago on the idea of power being given versus power being, I actually don't know that I take that stance. I still feel you. I feel exactly where you're coming from, and I understand your point of view. I just don't share it. I think a different way. And I think one thing that's happening right now, because especially our allies and especially like white people who have good intentions are often looking to us for the questions and the answers. And I think one thing that's happening right now is that like a lot of Black people are just like, I don't know. Like I don't think exactly the same way that person does. And we all have different experiences. We all have different life things that we're bringing into this. And what I'm loving right now that I have never seen really in the past is the ability for there to be a plethora of voices that are saying that the umbrella of which we're all under the same thing. And we're all sort of like pushing for the same cause. But like what's happening is there's just a diaspora of voices that's coming out. And we don't all agree, and we don't all think the same thing, and we don't all, at least on the microscopic level, of course, like we understand the direct chain there is between Emmett Till and George Floyd. And absolutely, it's those little Black experiences, those little things. For example, the semantics of saying the word pain. I think that what people understand, like the pain of being a Black person, that pain can manifest in different ways in such a way that someone, perhaps how you're saying it is, oh, it's not pain for me. That's not how I define that. That's not how I experience it. It's this. You know, so what we're understanding right now is that there's just a multitude of ways that Black people experience the world, and we don't all actually have to be understood in one simple monolithic way that understands all of us, you know.
So I'm not feeling like this is unrelated. First of all, to me, it's a very appropriate Pride celebration this year that the conversation is where it is right now in this group. I think that's awesome. I don't think it's unrelated or like I'm stopping the party to bring up a different topic, but with just a few minutes left, there is this question about gay theater, and to me, theater does reflect life. And again, as artists, we are all affected, whatever our background, whatever our particular stance or bent or desire of what we'd like to say in theater or why we entered into it or what we're doing with it. It's all on pause for the moment. There are virtual, there are live streams, there are recordings being released. National Theater had Small Island last week, and Midsummer Night's Dream started today. So in whatever form it can reach people, we are reaching people. And I think we're on the cusp of discovering a lot of new forms for more. But the question comes up periodically about, is there a need for gay theater? And the answer usually in the various articles I read in the New York Times and in the theater industry publications is about, well, I'll interpret it. They don't say this, but the gist of it is, just like Provincetown was a wonderful place for gay people to go in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, now younger gay people are growing up completely accepted at whatever beach or resort their friends hang out in. And there is no longer a need for those enclaves of support. Similarly, in gay theater, for a little while, it was looking like, you know, we came from the Boys in the Band, and Mort Crowley passed away just a little bit ago, but not before getting a Tony Award, which is amazing. And in his speech, he talked about the courage of the actors who did that play when their agents all told them they mustn't. So that's what we're coming from in what we've called in the past gay theater in the 60s, late 60s, early 70s. We get into the AIDS crisis, and we get into the Normal Heart and Larry Kramer's work and As Is. Then we move from there into Tony Kushner's masterwork, Angels in America, which I think is considered one of the great plays, not as gay theater, just as theater on a level with Tennessee Williams and Arthur Miller. And then it sort of looked like it wasn't necessary. And I remember when Last Sunday in June opened off Broadway, there were lots of articles about how it was a terrific play, and it was. I saw it. It was fantastic. And it closed in less than 4 weeks and it opened at Pride Month. It could barely eke out its run in that short period. And that was maybe, I don't know, 15 years ago. And then Jordan, you were in The Inheritance in its Broadway run, which was cut short a bit by the pandemic, but was slated to close anyway, way too early. When it came to the end of the first part of it, I looked at my partner and I said, do you want to take me to the hospital now? Because I have no idea what it's like to sit through that play as not a gay man who lived through the AIDS crisis. I have no idea. But for me, it was so traumatizing and all that it brought up. So, you know, I don't think it's unrelated to talk about the issues in our lives and what's going on for us as people and what's going on for us as artists and what the issues are in the world and how theater relates to that. And I'm just curious in these last few minutes we have from all of you, your responses to that thought. And is there a need for gay theater, and what is it, and where is it going, and how that relates to everything we're talking about? So I'll just throw that open, and thank you for any thoughts you have.
I want to make a very small contribution, and I'm going to steal a little something from Jordan and a little something from Erica. One thing that Jordan said about this idea that not everybody has to agree with the same thing. There are people in the queer community that believe that there should be strictly queer plays, queer entertainment. And then there are people who believe that there are plays to build bridges between the queer community and the larger community because we don't live on an island. And I'm more a proponent of that, of the fact that I would like to tell stories that kind of puts queer and non-queer people and people of all backgrounds, you know, side by side, kind of like as this idea of a society that is and can be. On the other side of it, you know, like Erica said, maybe I am a good trans person. Maybe I'm not the most melted person, and I believe in assimilation, or, you know, it's like being part of the larger community. So I believe that there should be room for all of it. Stories that are specifically queer, all alongside stories that bring queer and non-queer people together, and not treat them as things that can't exist in the same world.
You know, what I would add to that is I think that the problem is the canon of what gay theater is right now. And, you know, that long list of plays that you just mentioned, absolutely important seminal works of queer theater. They're also all white for the most part. And, you know, we didn't include A Strange Loop, which just won the Pulitzer. And there's a lot of theater, there's a lot of queer theater that features people of color. But we don't think of that as queer theater. We don't think of that as gay theater. We think of it as Black gay theater or something like that, or Black theater. And for me, so to answer your question, it's complicated, but like, yes, I think there's absolutely a space for gay theater. I think there's absolutely a space for queer theater. I do think that what that definition is needs to open up, because I think for too long, we canonize the gay experience, especially in our arts. We qualify that with being white. And, you know, I'm well aware that I am in a play that I was in a play that is now considered one of the seminal markers of queer and gay theater. And I am extremely proud to be a part of that. And I'm not saying that you're alone on this, Arnold. I don't think a lot of people would have included A Strange Loop in that list, because or Hot Wing King that Katori Hall wrote last year. You know, there's a lot of theater out there that is queer and that is gay that we don't, in a zeitgeist way, consider part of it. And I think just what needs to happen now is we need to understand that like queer theater and gay theater is actually much bigger than what we've understood it to be in the past. We need to uplift those voices. We need to include them in the canon, and we need to broaden the idea of what it means to do gay theater and what it means to do queer theater. Because again, what I was saying, my mentality of queer is not necessarily tied to who you have sex with or how you identify gender-wise, or how it's more about a state of mind. It's more about a way of approaching the world and a way of approaching people, and absolutely equity over equality. I think that's what, for me at least, makes me like a queer person. The fact that I can understand equality is giving people the same view of something, but equity is making it clear that like some people, even if you give them the same view, don't have access to that view. So we have to just bring them all to the same. So we need to start opening up what queer theory is, you know, like, what queer theater is, you know, like there's a lot of like women-centric theater that I think would be queer, but we don't really think of it as queer because it's stories about women and women's sexuality. We identify gayness and queer theater as pertaining specifically or predominantly to men. And then in Western society, that is very much about white men. So I think just for me, what it is just about broadening that. And I think queer theater and gay theater is going to exist no matter whether or not we create a space for it. I think it's about understanding and adopting and accepting other forms of theater that we might not necessarily identify as gay or queer as being gay or queer and part of the milieu of queer art.
Yeah, and in addition to A Strange Loop, I also left out Indecent and the movement of lesbian plays that we've seen more of in the last few years. I remember the off-Broadway play last summer at Bluefish Cove back in like the early 80s, and it was a lesbian play and no one had ever seen one, you know. So I think that's also shifted as well, and that may be perception type things in addition.
I'll give in my few thoughts. Just to answer the question, is gay theater needed or necessary? My first thought to myself was, well, what does that mean, gay theater? Is it a gay company with gay individuals performing theater, or is it theater that has a gay storyline, whether be it one character or more? So I think, Jordan, you're right. It needs to be an all-encompassing definition, in the sense that we don't limit it to just gay men or a gay storyline. I mean, there can be gay characters in theater and has nothing to do with their sexuality. You know, that would be also a nice welcome. When I lived in LA about 10 years ago, Normal Heart, I think, came on the HBO special, and I had two young roommates. They were in their 20s, and I had a viewing of it. I invited people over, and about 15 minutes, these two young men walked out. And I said, "Where are you going?" They said, "Oh, well, we're kind of bored." And that kind of broke my heart, because they did not want to learn or find out about the evolution of the AIDS crisis and where it came from and how it's gone to where it is today, where they can feel freely to have sex and not be threatened by a disease. So when I saw The Inheritance, that is exactly what I needed for those two young men at the time, because it was a way to be entertained, yet to learn from the history of the AIDS crisis. And it was fascinating, because when I wanted that, I actually did not know anything about The Inheritance when I went in. I saw it late, and I was given a ticket. Like, okay, I'll go. And it surprised me. It was exactly about learning from the gay predecessors and who carved the way for us. And it also played out my life story about being a gay man in New York during the 80s and the 90s and the AIDS crisis and the partying and the club scene and all that. I mean, it was earth-shattering, as maybe what Arnold felt as well. After the first part, I had to walk home because I was shook. So to not take up so much time, yes, I do think it's needed. I do think it's necessary, and I do think it will never go away. I think it will be there in the future.
Thank you. We're a little bit over time, but Erica, you want to take us out?
I'll try to keep it quick. Theater has broken my heart. The American theater has broken my heart. I don't perform at all, hardly as much, because my experience has been, there's only so many times I can be offered a job. Our job description is looking for big Black woman, sassy Black, this type of, it has been, and it's made changes in the past 25 years or 30 maybe. Hey, 30 years. Woo, Lord. It's made changes this much. But when I went to a conservatory for theater, and it's the same old conversation that most Black people have. I trained, I know my voice and my walking, and then my money was made on SVU because they needed somebody one day. This is the look. And after that, I was on there for 5 years because I fit this look that they wanted that had nothing to do with my talent. I talk about all the time. I had this one audition when I first came to New York City, and I got an agent. I got my first, and it was a good agent. They sent me out, and the casting director was this older Jewish woman, and she was like, "Okay, you're sitting on an airplane between two people," and I did a play about this, and you're sitting on an airplane between two men, and you're supposed to say he should have used Imodium AD. And I said, in my moment, I'm going to lift my voice. I'm fresh out of art school. Yes, I got it. He should have used Imodium AD. He should have used Imodium AD. And when I saw the commercial 6 months later, it was, he should have used Imodium AD. And I'm like, oh, That's a joke for us. We make fun of that. Why is that? Like, couldn't I just be a woman on a plane saying he should have used the Modi Mayday? Because now he's causing us problems. Whatever. I think that the American theater should get much more deliberate. Have a season that is about how many plays that have intersectionality can I squeeze in a season. Okay, you don't just get one Black play. You got to make it Black, trans, Jewish, and Martian. Who the fuck cares? Do it on, be on purpose. Be on purpose, be deliberate, be overboard with saying, you know what, we're not just going to do Shakespearean versions with Black actors. We're going to find classics that were way before Shakespeare in different African countries and storytelling in different African countries, and we're gonna bring that into the picture. So, my heart has been broken by the American theater. However, the American theater will always have my heart, and I hope one day to go back in it and be free.
Beautiful. And on that note, hey, anybody who comes to me and says, can you recommend a person of color who could be an artistic director of our theater? I'm giving them your name every time. And I'm just letting you know in advance, those positions in nonprofit theater don't pay a lot. So they're coming at you.
Come to me when they say, who is one of the best actors you know? That's what I want. Fuck a colored person. Who's one of the best actors in her mid-40s? Because I want to wear my age that can do this role. Because I can. That was such a plug. I want to be an actor. I don't want to be a Black. I don't want to be a woman. I'll be an old actor. I'll be a young actor. I'll be because that's just life. But I just want to be an actor.
Yeah, I hear you. Beautiful. Well, I cannot thank you enough. Just so everybody knows, the folks who come on here donate their time and their voices, and I'm so grateful for your voices being heard. So POOYA and Alan and Jordan and Erica, thank you for sharing your hearts with us tonight and for talking about these things. I wish everyone a happy Pride, everyone on the panel, everyone listening, everyone who's listening later. Happy Pride. Please join the celebration and please continue to make your voices heard. I send you all great love, and if I can push the right button, we'll end the broadcast. Let's see what happens. Thank you again.
Much love and gratitude to all.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.